They had the talent, the fame, and the roles that could have changed everything until alleged racism pushed them off the screen. Some were fired overnight, others quietly blacklisted, and many look completely different today. Stay with us as Hollywood Legends Remembered uncovers 20 shocking stories Hollywood hoped you would forget. Don Imus. Don Imus was one of the most influential voices in American radio, abrasive, politically connected, and known for turning morning broadcasting into a form of verbal combat. For decades, Imus in the Morning combined news, celebrity interviews, political discussion, insults, and shock humor, giving him an audience and influence far beyond traditional radio. Everything changed in April 2007 after the Rutgers women's basketball team reached the NCAA championship game. During his broadcast, Imus directed a racist and sexist insult at the players. These young women should have been celebrating one of the greatest achievements of their athletic careers, but the national conversation quickly shifted away from their season and toward his remarks. Rutgers coach C. Vivian Stringer later said the team agreed to meet with Imus after he was fired, while team captain Essence Carson explained that his words had taken away a moment of dignity and pride. Can you imagine working for years to reach a championship only to have someone else turn your proudest week into public humiliation? MSNBC ended its television simulcast of the program, and CBS Radio dismissed Imus soon afterward. Although he returned to broadcasting later that year on WABC, his reputation and authority were never fully restored. Imus continued working until retiring in 2018. He died the following year at the age of 79. Paula Deen. Paula Deen became a household name through rich Southern recipes, generous amounts of butter, and a friendly television image that made viewers feel as though they were cooking with a familiar relative. By the early 2000s, Paula's home cooking had made her one of the Food Network's most recognizable stars. Her public image began to collapse in 2013 during a lawsuit brought by Lisa Jackson, a former manager at a restaurant operated by Deen and her brother. In a sworn deposition, Deen acknowledged that she had used a racial slur in the past. Additional testimony involving plans for a plantation-themed wedding, including black servers dressed in a manner associated with the pre-Civil War South, intensified the controversy. That same month, Food Network announced that it would not renew her contract. Can you imagine spending years creating a reputation for kindness and hospitality, only to see it unravel because of statements revealed in court? The consequences extended far beyond television. Smithfield Foods ended its partnership with Deen, while Walmart and several other major companies removed products or cut business ties. Although she later attempted to rebuild through restaurants, cookbooks, live appearances, and digital cooking programs, her career never returned to its previous level. Paula Deen remained active, but the Food Network platform that had transformed her into a national celebrity was gone. Anthony Cumia. Anthony Cumia became famous as one half of Opie and Anthony, a shock radio program built on confrontation, crude jokes, and arguments meant to test limits. His career depended on provocation, but the incident that removed him from SiriusXM happened away from the microphone. In July 2014, Cumia said a woman confronted and struck him in Times Square while he was taking photographs. He responded on Twitter with a stream of posts. Instead of limiting his comments to the encounter, he used language that generalized about black people and included degrading remarks about women. The messages circulated before the company acted. When does a broadcaster's reputation for provocation stop explaining his behavior and start exposing what he genuinely believes? On July 3, SiriusXM terminated Cumia. In its statement, the company described his remarks as racially charged, hate-filled, and incompatible with its values. Cumia refused to apologize, arguing that the posts were written outside the program and were not illegal. That defense did not reverse the decision or restore his place beside Greg Opie Hughes and Jim Norton. Cumia soon created a subscription-based show and developed Compound Media, keeping contact with listeners beyond satellite radio. His dismissal did not end his ability to broadcast, but it removed him from the platform that made Opie and Anthony influential. In 2025, he returned to terrestrial radio with a WABC program. The comeback did not erase 2014. His SiriusXM career ended because the company decided provocation no longer explained or excused what he had posted. Roseanne Barr. Roseanne Barr returned to network television in 2018 as the force behind Roseanne, the working-class sitcom that had made her famous decades earlier. The revival premiered to huge ratings, earned a rapid renewal, and restored Barr to the center of primetime. That comeback collapsed on May 29th. Barr posted a tweet about Valerie Jarrett, a black former advisor to President Barack Obama, using a comparison widely condemned as racist. The response was immediate. Consulting producer Wanda Sykes announced she would leave, while cast member and executive producer Sarah Gilbert publicly rejected Barr's words. ABC President Channing Dungey then canceled the series, calling the comment abhorrent and inconsistent with the network's values. 10-1 reckless message. Justify ending a successful program that employs hundreds of people. For ABC, the answer was yes. The cancellation came hours after the tweet, and despite the show already being renewed. Barr deleted the post, apologized to Jarrett, and later said she had been impaired by Ambien, an explanation that did little to reverse the damage. Her agency also dropped her, and reruns were removed from several outlets. The Connor family eventually returned without its original star. ABC launched The Connors, and the premiere revealed that Roseanne Connor had died from an accidental opioid overdose. The decision allowed the cast and crew to continue working while permanently separating the franchise from Barr. Her comeback had survived changing audiences and decades away from television, but it could not survive a racist statement made in seconds online. Megyn Kelly. Megyn Kelly arrived at NBC in 2017 after building her reputation as a confrontational primetime anchor at Fox News. NBC gave her the 9 a.m. hour of Today, hoping Megyn Kelly. Today could present a warmer version through celebrity interviews, human interest stories, and daytime conversation. That experiment unraveled during a Halloween panel on October 23, 2018. While discussing costumes, Kelly questioned why darkening one's skin had become unacceptable, and recalled that it had seemed permissible when she was younger if someone was portraying a character. The remarks ignored blackface's history as a racist performance tradition, and criticism spread quickly inside and outside NBC. Can a host rebuild trust after revealing such a blind spot on television? Kelly apologized to colleagues by email and then addressed viewers on air, saying she had been wrong. The apology did not save the program. NBC removed her from the broadcast and announced 3 days later that Megyn Kelly Today would not return. Her departure was finalized in January 2019. The controversy was the immediate trigger. Although Kelly's transition to daytime television had already been difficult and the show struggled to establish a clear identity. Her comeback ended, but her career did not. In 2020, she launched The Megyn Kelly Show, expanding it through podcasting, YouTube, and SiriusXM. She regained an audience outside network television. Yet the collapse of her NBC program remains tied to one discussion in which a veteran journalist failed to understand why blackface could never be treated as an innocent costume. Don Cherry. Don Cherry was one of Canadian hockey television's most recognizable figures. A former NHL coach, he spent decades appearing beside Ron MacLean on Coach's Corner, where his brightly patterned suits, patriotic speeches, and blunt opinions made him both popular and deeply divisive. His long broadcasting career ended after the November 9, 2019 edition of Hockey Night in Canada. With Remembrance Day approaching, Cherry criticized people he believed were benefiting from life in Canada without purchasing poppies to honor fallen soldiers. During the commentary, he used the phrase, "you people," while referring to those who had come to Canada and enjoyed its opportunities. The wording was widely interpreted as an attack on immigrants. Viewers, politicians, and advocacy groups condemned the remarks, arguing that Cherry had singled out newcomers as ungrateful and less patriotic than other Canadians. Sportsnet apologized and stated that his comments did not represent the network's values. Did Cherry lose his job for defending a tradition, or for deciding who appeared Canadian enough to respect it? 2 days after the broadcast, Sportsnet announced that Cherry would leave Coach's Corner immediately. He did not offer a complete retraction. Cherry later said he should have used the word "everybody" instead of "you people." but continued to defend his underlying message about wearing poppies. After nearly 4 decades as a fixture of Saturday Night Hockey, Cherry's seat was suddenly empty. The controversy did not erase his influence on Canadian sports broadcasting, but it showed that the confrontational style once treated as entertainment had finally crossed a boundary his network would no longer defend. Shane Gillis. Shane Gillis was a stand-up comedian from Mechanicsburg, Pennsylvania, known for performances in Matt and Shane's Secret podcast. His career changed abruptly in September 2019 when Saturday Night Live announced him as a featured player for its 45th season. Within hours, recordings from an earlier podcast began circulating online. In the clips, Gillis used an anti-Asian slur, imitated Chinese accents, and made derogatory remarks. The controversy was visible because Bowen Yang had just been announced as SNL's first East Asian cast member. 4 days after the casting announcement, the program withdrew Gillis's invitation, saying the language was offensive, hurtful, and unacceptable. What happens when the opportunity a comedian spent years pursuing disappears before he performs a single sketch? Gillis responded by describing himself as a comedian who took risks and sometimes missed while offering to apologize to people who were offended. His wording was criticized as conditional, and the dismissal appeared capable of defining his career. Instead of disappearing, he built an audience through stand-up touring, YouTube sketches, podcasting, and independently released comedy. The reversal became unmistakable when Gillis returned to host Saturday Night Live in February 2024 and again in March 2025. His workplace comedy Tires found a home on Netflix, which renewed it for a 3rd season. Production began in 2026, although a release date had not been confirmed. Gillis did not erase the remarks that cost him the original job. He built a second act outside SNL, then returned to the stage that had once rejected him. Hulk Hogan. Hulk Hogan was the central figure in professional wrestling's expansion during the 1980s. Born in Terry Bollea, he turned the red and yellow Hulkamania character into a household name and helped make WrestleMania a major entertainment event. His heroic public image, however, was badly damaged by words spoken when he believed no audience was listening. In July 2015, reports published excerpts from a secretly recorded tape in which Hogan repeatedly used a racial slur while discussing the possibility of his daughter dating a black man. The comments were not part of a wrestling storyline or an exaggerated television performance. They came from a private conversation, making it harder for many fans to separate the entertainer from the person behind the character. What remains of a childhood hero when the private voice sounds nothing like the public one? WWE responded immediately. The company ended its relationship with Hogan, removed references to him from its website, and took down his Hall of Fame profile. Hogan apologized, calling the language offensive and inconsistent with his beliefs. Even so, the apology did not settle the argument over whether regret came from genuine reflection or from public exposure. WWE reinstated Hogan into its Hall of Fame in 2018 after citing his apologies and volunteer work. He later returned for selected appearances, but the reception remained divided. Hogan died in July 2025 at 71. His contribution to wrestling remains enormous, yet the leaked remarks permanently changed how many people understood the man beneath the bandana. Michael Richards. Michael Richards became famous through physical comedy rather than polished dialogue. As Cosmo Kramer on Seinfeld, his sudden entrances, awkward movements, and unpredictable energy created one of television's most recognizable characters. The performance earned him 3 Emmy Awards, but after the sitcom ended, Richards struggled to establish a career separate from Kramer. That difficulty became secondary after a stand-up appearance at the Laugh Factory in Los Angeles in November 2006. During the set, several audience members heckled him. Richards lost control and repeatedly directed a racist slur at black people in the crowd. He also made comments invoking racial violence. The incident was recorded by an audience member, and the footage quickly spread through television and online media. Was this simply a comedian reacting badly under pressure? Or did the anger expose something far more troubling? Richards appeared by satellite on Late Show with David Letterman shortly afterward and apologized. He said the heckling had sent him into a rage and admitted that his words were deeply offensive. The uncomfortable appearance showed a man struggling to explain behavior that could not be dismissed as part of a comedy routine. Although Richards later returned for occasional acting roles, including appearances connected to Larry David and Seinfeld, he largely withdrew from public life. The outburst did not erase the brilliance of Kramer, but it permanently changed how audiences viewed the performer. A career once defined by carefully controlled comic chaos became overshadowed by one night when Richards lost control completely. Stassi Schroeder. Stassi Schroeder became a defining personality on Vanderpump Rules, turning sharp commentary, volatile friendships books, fashion projects, and podcasting into a career beyond the ensemble. By 2020, she had appeared through 8 seasons of the Bravo series. Her position collapsed after cast member Faith Stowers revisited a 2018 incident. Stowers said Schroeder and Kristen Doute contacted police after seeing a report about a black woman suspected of theft, although the woman shown was not Stowers. Schroeder had previously discussed the calls, publicly treating the episode as entertainment. When the story resurfaced during a reckoning over racism in June 2020, the danger of falsely directing police toward a black colleague became impossible to dismiss. How could a reality show feud justify involving law enforcement against someone who did not match the suspect? Bravo announced that Schroeder and Doute would not return to Vanderpump Rules. Schroeder also lost representation sponsorships and her podcast platform. She apologized, acknowledging that privilege had prevented her from understanding the consequences of her actions. The apology did not reverse the firing, and she remained outside Bravo's franchise for years. Schroeder gradually rebuilt through books, touring, podcasting, and family-focused media. In 2026, Freeform scheduled House of Stassi to premiere July 29, with the season streaming on Hulu the following day. Her return shows the career survived, but it does not erase why it collapsed. Her downfall began when conduct once framed as reality television drama was reconsidered as an accusation that could have placed a black woman in danger. Kristen Doute. Kristen Doute became known on Vanderpump Rules through volatile relationships, blunt confrontations, and personal conflicts filmed for Bravo. By 2020, she had turned that reputation into a television career, a clothing business, a podcast, and a book. Her position unraveled after former castmate Faith Stowers described an incident from 2018. Doute and Stassi Schroeder had contacted police after seeing a news report about a black woman suspected of theft and claimed Stowers might be the person shown. Doute also shared the accusation on social media, even though Stowers was not involved in the crime. When the story resurfaced during the racial justice protests of June 2020, the act was no longer treated as ordinary reality television hostility. How could anger between cast members justify directing police toward an innocent black woman? Doute apologized, saying privilege had prevented her from understanding how dangerous her actions could have been. Bravo announced that she and Schroeder would not return to Vanderpump Rules. The decision removed Doute from the platform that had defined her public life for nearly a decade. Her television absence was not permanent. Doute briefly returned during the 2023 Scandoval storyline and became an original cast member of The Valley in 2024. She remained part of the series afterward. Faith Stowers also filed a lawsuit in 2024 against Bravo, NBC Universal, and production companies, alleging discrimination and retaliation during her time connected to the franchise. Doute eventually rebuilt her television career, but that comeback did not erase the conduct that led Bravo to remove her in the first place. Max Boyens. Max Boyens joined Vanderpump Rules in its 8th season as part of a younger group expected to refresh the long-running reality series. Working as the general manager of Tom Lisa Vanderpump's West Hollywood restaurant and bar, he entered the show through workplace drama, friendships, and relationships with other cast members. His television debut, however, was soon overshadowed by material his past. In January 2020, several tweets Boyens had posted in 2012 resurfaced online. The messages included repeated use of racist slurs as well as offensive comments about Asian people. Although they had been written years before he joined Bravo, their discovery changed how viewers saw him before his first season had finished airing. How does someone introduce himself to a new audience when his old words have already defined him? Boyens apologized, saying he was shocked and embarrassed by the language he had once used. During the reunion, he admitted that reading the posts made him cringe and acknowledged that there was no excuse for them. Lisa Vanderpump condemned the remarks but initially argued that Boyens and fellow cast member Brett Caprioni had shown remorse and learned from their behavior. That response did not preserve his place on the show. In June 2020, during a broader industry reckoning over racism, Bravo and Evolution Media announced that Boyens would not return to Vanderpump Rules. After only one season, his television career with the franchise was over. Instead of becoming part of the show's next generation, he became remembered mainly as one of several cast members removed when past conduct was finally treated as more than forgotten social media history. Taylor Selfridge. Taylor Selfridge became familiar to reality television audiences through Are You the One X on the Beach and Teen Mom OG. Her relationship with Corey Wharton later placed her inside MTV's family-centered storyline, and a special about the birth of their daughter was expected to become her next appearance. That plan collapsed in June 2020. MTV removed Teen Mom OG at Home Corey and Taylor's baby special from its schedule shortly before it was due to air and announced that the network was ending its relationship with Selfridge. The company pointed to racist statements she had posted on social media years earlier and said it supported those speaking against racial injustice. What happens when a network has already shown the warning signs but decides to act only after public pressure becomes impossible to ignore? The controversy was not new to viewers. Selfridge's earlier comments had already been discussed on Teen Mom OG, where Cheyenne Floyd confronted her about the posts. At that time, the issue remained part of the program's personal conflict. By 2000, however, networks were being pushed to reconsider conduct they had previously allowed to remain within reality television storylines. Selfridge later wrote on Instagram that she wanted to move forward and become a better version of herself. Her statement did not reverse MTV's decision. The baby special disappeared and her place in the franchise ended with it. Instead of beginning a new television chapter, the planned broadcast became the moment her relationship with the network was cut off. Abby Lee Miller. Abby Lee Miller turned strict dance instruction into reality television fame. As the demanding teacher at the center of Dance Moms, she became known for shouting corrections, ranking children on a pyramid, and treating emotional pressure as professional training. Her relationship with Lifetime ended in June 2020 after Adriana Smith, whose daughter Cameron appeared in Season 8, accused Miller of making racist remarks. Smith recalled Miller contrasting Cameron's upbringing with her own country club background and said the experience contributed to their decision to leave. Other black mothers connected to the series also described unequal treatment and a hostile environment. When criticism is presented as teaching, how can a child tell where discipline ends and prejudice begins? Miller issued an apology to Cameron, Adriana, and others she had hurt. She acknowledged that racism could come from ignorance as well as hatred, and said she needed to learn and change. Smith did not accept the apology, arguing that its timing felt insincere. Lifetime then severed ties with Miller and canceled the planned competition series Abby's Virtual Dance-Off before it premiered. The allegations did not disappear with the canceled show. In her 2025 memoir, former Dance Moms star Nia Sue described alleged racist and body-shaming remarks about her hair, feet, and appearance during filming. Miller had not publicly answered those claims when reported. Her television career had been built on being deliberately harsh, but accounts from black participants forced audiences to reconsider whether some moments went beyond toughness. Hartley Sawyer. Hartley Sawyer joined The Flash in 2017 as Ralph Dibny, a private investigator who became the shape-shifting hero Elongated Man. Introduced as comic relief, Ralph gradually earned a place within Team Flash and developed into one of the series' supporting characters. That progress ended in June 2020 when screenshots of posts from Sawyer's Twitter account resurfaced. Written between 2011 and 2014, the messages included racist, misogynistic, and homophobic language along with jokes about sexual violence. Although the posts predated his work on the series Warner Bros. Television, the C.W. Berlanti Productions and executive producer Eric Wallace announced that Sawyer would not return for Season 7. How much distance from an offensive statement is enough? when the person who wrote it now represents a major television franchise. Sawyer apologized, saying he was ashamed of the attempts at humor and accepted that words could cause lasting harm regardless of intention. Grant Gustin shared Wallace's statement and said he was shocked, saddened, and angry. The response showed that the decision had support from the show's leading actor and producers. Ralph Dibny was not permanently recast, because the unfinished Season 6 storyline still required closure. The writers used Ralph's ability to alter his appearance, allowing another performer to represent him briefly while concluding his story with Sue Dearborn. Sawyer's biggest television role therefore ended without a final appearance from him. Years of character development remained on screen, but the actor's career with The Flash was ended by words posted long before he joined the series. Chris Harrison. Chris Harrison became the voice of the Bachelor franchise after beginning as its host in 2002. For nearly 2 decades, he guided rose ceremonies, breakups, proposals, and reunion specials, becoming so closely associated with the series that his presence seemed permanent. That changed in February 2021, during an interview with Rachel Lindsay, the franchise's first black bachelorette. Harrison was asked about contestant Rachel Kirkconnell after photographs surfaced, showing her attending an antebellum-themed fraternity party in 2018. Rather than recognizing why the images were offensive, he criticized the woke police, questioned whether the behavior had been viewed differently several years earlier, and repeatedly asked that Kirkconnell be shown grace. Why did Harrison appear more concerned with protecting a contestant from criticism than understanding the racial history? Rachel Lindsay was explaining. The interview placed Lindsay in an uncomfortable position. She had already spoken about the franchise's lack of diversity, yet she was again expected to explain racism while its longtime host challenged her concerns. The backlash grew, and Harrison apologized for speaking in a way that excused historical racism and diminished Lindsay's perspective. I initially announced that he would temporarily step away and did not host the following season of The Bachelorette. In June 2021, Harrison permanently left the franchise after reaching an agreement with Warner Horizon and ABC. His departure ended one of reality television's longest hosting runs. The interview lasted minutes, but it exposed how poorly the franchise's representative understood the racial issues its black participants had faced for years. Dee Nguyen. Dee Nguyen became one of the challenge's most recognizable international competitors after first appearing on Geordie Shore. She entered MTV's competition franchise through War of the Worlds and later won War of the Worlds 2, establishing herself as more than a temporary reality television personality. Her relationship with MTV collapsed in June 2020, while the challenge. Total Madness was still being broadcast. During the Black Lives Matter protests, following the killing of George Floyd, Nguyen posted several social media comments that viewers and fellow cast members criticized as insensitive. Responding to criticism over posting photographs of herself, she wrote that people die every day. In another exchange, she used a crude joke to reject the accusation that she did not support Black Lives Matter. How does a reigning champion become someone her own? Television Network suddenly tries to remove from the story. MTV publicly condemned the comments and announced that it had severed ties with Nguyen. Because Total Madness had already been filmed, the network continued airing the season but significantly reduced her appearances in later episodes. Storylines involving her were shortened, and viewers noticed how abruptly one of the season's central competitors had been pushed into the background. Nguyen later apologized, saying she regretted the remarks and opposed racial intolerance. She also said she needed to step away and work on herself. The apology did not restore her place in the franchise. Her championship victory remained part of the challenge's official history, but the future she appeared to have earned disappeared within days. Her exit showed how quickly social media comments could end a reality television career, even while the contestant was still appearing on screen. Jenna Marbles. Jenna Maury became one of YouTube's earliest major stars under the name Jenna Marbles. Her channel grew through homemade comedy beauty parodies, personal conversations, and videos featuring her dogs, eventually attracting more than 20 million subscribers. The career she had built for over a decade changed in June 2020 when she uploaded a video titled "A Message," Instead of responding to one new controversy, Maury revisited several pieces of content from her early years that she had already removed from public view. These included a 2011 Nicki Minaj impersonation criticized as blackface, a music video containing offensive stereotypes about Asian people, and older videos that judged women for their sexual behavior. She did not defend the material as harmless comedy. Maury said she was ashamed that her work had hurt people, and admitted that good intentions could not erase its impact. Can an apology feel complete when the person giving it believes her public presence has become part of the problem? Maury announced that she was leaving YouTube indefinitely. No network dismissed her, and the platform did not ban her. She made the decision herself, later ending the podcast she hosted with Julian Solomita and withdrawing almost entirely from social media. What initially sounded like a temporary break became a lasting departure. Although she married Solomita in 2022, Maury continued keeping her life private and did not return to regular uploads. Her career did not end through a formal firing. It ended when one of YouTube's biggest creators looked back at her own work, decided an apology was not enough, and quietly stepped away from the audience she had spent years building.